Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Barry Braster, and I will be here to host today's webinar on how to implement a content quality strategy. Um, this session will be recorded, um, and this is me, by the way, Barry Braster. I'm the technology director for Etterplan, over 2 decades of experience in doing this, and be delighted to talk to you about this particular topic today. So, as I mentioned, the webinar will be recorded. You will be provided, or to anybody who signed up for it, you will be provided with a link to the recording session later on. Um, Everybody will be in mute mode, but you are more than welcome to use the chat box in your GoToWebinar environment, where you can ask me any questions, which I will then address towards the end of this only 30-minute presentation. So lots to get through. Um, so this webinar then, many priorities, right? When we manage content, there's risks, there's compliance, consistency, cost, etc. And what I want to be talking to you is today is about how to really define a strategy on content consistency, how to take ownership, create a business case, etc. And then how to manage content between multiple departments or silos, finding the synergy, managing the differences, and then last but not least, how you can then improve on readability and usability and set goals for either new or legacy content. Remember, quality isn't just about having a high score. Um, and so I'd like to start with this kind of like mission statement, if you will. Content is a business asset, right? You have basically what this comes down to is you have a great product, and it can also be a great service, of course, but it should always be accompanied by great content. And if we look then, how important is content, right, within an organization or for the customers or the customers that we serve? Well, for that, we need to kind of look at the impact of content on, for instance, in this case, a product lifecycle, right? So we have product management, there's manufacturing and assembly personnel, there's installation technicians, operators, maintenance and service engineers, support engineers, sales, and you mentioned it. And there obviously is the possibility of a high diversity of knowledge, experience, and languages. If we look further down the line, we see there's R&D. Over 20% is spent on content creation there. 50% of business-to-business buyers rely on technical content. High diversity of knowledge, um, experience, and languages. And cost of downtime doubled over the last 2 years is what the operators are telling us. And then over 50% of this time for support is spent on solving repetitive issues. And last but not least, our maintenance engineers are saying that 50% of their time is spent on just trying to find the right information. All of this while we're trying to be sustainable. So just to give you an example, if we just take one term, right? So, and this term could be a grinding head cover in this case, which is used in the documentation. But then we see that spare parts, we're calling it something completely different. We're calling it a dust cover. So what does that mean then? So if you have a service engineer and you provide them with not just the documents, but let's say that you provide them with a viewer where they can just simply look up on their phone or their tablets, they can try to look up information, and which what we've done for Husqvarna, for instance, is that without taxonomy, and having proper terminology management in place, you have a service engineer that searches for the word dust cover. Well, he or she is not really able to find the right information here, because you can see dust is used over there, cover is used over there. So, how do we deal with that? Well, if you do have terminology management and, for instance, the use of approved versus non-approved synonyms in place, then that word does cover, even though it's not allowed um, for the technical writers, for instance, to create consistency, that word is still something that you want to use, because it could be a non-approved synonym that you want to take into account when you create your taxonomy, so that when people look for dust cover, they will be given the information about grinding head. And so even though they use the wrong word, they're still being led to the right information. And did you know, again, I mentioned it already, time spent by professionals searching for information, as research by Gartner, is actually 50%. So if you have 1,500 service engineers and they spend 2 hours to fix an issue, half of that time just goes into trying to find the information. So what are the values then of content quality, right? What is content quality? Well, it ensures accuracy. So you have to make sure that your end users receive information that they can easily understand and work with. And that, of course, ensures safe product use and reduces or helps to reduce support costs. It helps to standardize procedures. So operating procedures, policy, all standardized, which is crucial for consistency and compliance, of course. It streamlines the development. So it provides developers with clear details on what has been built, which streamlines the development process. It facilitates user adoption, so it speeds up user adoption by making it easier for your end users to understand and use a product or service, which can improve the brand perception. So if you have a great product, but let's say that the menu that comes with it is not on that same level, it's actually going to make you look bad. Because people, if they can't find the information or the information is difficult to understand, it's going to basically have a negative effect on your brand perception. Reduce support costs by reducing customer support costs by enabling both support agents and customers, like I said already earlier, just to find information quickly and efficiently, and maintains data integrity. So in the context of metadata, for instance, tech quality content is essential for validation and verification, which then ensures the integrity of data. A little about the relationship then between AI, big buzzword these days, and content quality. Well, we've been quite involved in that so far, and we basically believe that quality content, but also part of your knowledge base as input to AI, absolutely improves the quality and accuracy. Um, However, approved content typically undergoes review to ensure that it's accurate and consistent, right? Which avoids the risks of errors and discrepancies that could arise if AI were to regenerate or rephrase it. So in other words, if garbage in is garbage out. So in other words, in order to really facilitate AI technology, you need to ensure that quality content goes in the first place. And in order to do that, you need verified factual output, right? So it's that verification specifically in the beginning, as you are teaching your AI environment to, your large language model to be more efficient, to provide higher quality output, then verification is absolutely necessary because, in this case, we're saying our customer's business does not leave room for hallucinations and plausible wrongs. It's just important, right? If we're talking about health, safety, efficiency, then verified factual output is absolutely key. And we also then see that the role of a technical writer will enhance, change further with the focus on information and large language modeling and structuring and output verification, right? So we as a result see the role of a technical writer change a little bit in the future. Exciting times ahead. We are ready. Are you? In other words, if you have any questions specifically to AI, you are more than welcome to contact us about this as well. So then the big question, right? So what we are here for today is, what is a content quality strategy? What does that entail? What it does not entail is just buying a tool that is going to, and then that tool, that checker tool, is then going to make your lives, by magic, better. because there's actually a lot more involved in that. It's simply, it's the same with AI. You just cannot use ChatGPT and then expect miracles to happen. So there's a number of items that we need to have in place. One, well, if you know where you want to go, if there's a compliance part or there's a scoring part, then you of course need to know where you were, right? So set and manage your key performance indicators. So how much are you currently spending now on documentation translation? Do you monitor support calls? What are you trying to achieve here? If it's consistency over your entire workforce, great. But what is content currently doing for you that is causing some kind of negativity there, that has some bad results? And in other words, what are you trying to achieve? Create that baseline measurement, right? So that you can later on show management what it is that you need to improve on, or what has been improved, and by what extent that has been improved. So second step is you need to define your terminology and writing rules. So that means that you can only use approved terms, which will bring consistency and clarity across the entire product lifecycle, right? We're going to call it this, then we're going to call it this throughout the organization. Writing rules, of course, how strict do you want your writers to write? How loose do you want your writers to write? It all needs to be defined. Otherwise, you can't tell somebody just write better, because they need to have some kind of, for instance, a style guide in place. And you need to set quality scoring goals for people. Define the scope, create a business case, do a proof of concept. I would say start small, and then expand from there on out. Training is really, really important, because if you want people to write better, then they need to know what writing rules they need to use, right? So try to use the active voice more, use consistent terminology, but then of course, how do they know which terms to use? Involve subject matter experts, anyone else affected by this initiative, to create awareness, because you're probably going to have a review process within your organization, right? So either an SME provides the technical writer with content, or the writer writes it by himself or herself, and then there's some kind of a verification process. Well, if your subject matter expert is not aware of this content quality strategy, you're going to have discussions that you really want to prevent. So have everybody involved that is going to be affected is really a good thing to do. We provide a number of training services, but more about that later on. And then yes, a checker tool, implement a content quality checker to help, but also ensure everybody complies, right? It can automate the checking, it can automate editorial reviews, it can make sure that certain style guides are met across the entire board, and it will provide quality statistics. So you get some really good metrics from that can allow you to basically prove to yourself and management, this is where we were, this is where we are, this is where we want to go. Great asset there, but again, it's not just the only thing that you need to be doing. And then post-implementation support, right? So monitor progress, answer questions that anybody may have, expand your dictionary with new terms. So you're going to be creating a dictionary with your company terms that are either approved or not approved. And you're going to be expanding on that. So for instance, if you start small, you'll obviously be expanding as you're starting to go into other divisions maybe. But that's something that dictionary will basically be a live asset. So now with a strategy, there's also challenges that come into place, which, I have this picture up here of herding cats, which is absolutely something that could happen. So when you standardize your content, yes, it will improve the quality of your content, but it will also reveal issues that were kind of like hidden before, and those issues need to be discussed and decided upon. So for instance, the sentence that I always use in presentations is turn off engines not required. Well, it could mean two things. Turn off engines is not required, or turn off those engines that are not required. So 2 out of the 4. Well, which one is it? As a technical writer, you may not know, because it's legacy content. You may have to go back to the subject matter expert, and that person has now left the company or retired, or so. In other words, with content quality, it's going to demand clarity of you. And so sometimes it's going to reveal issues like very long noun clusters that you're going to have to rewrite, rename. Um, uh, if the original was ambiguous, you're going to have to decide, okay, which one are we trying to do here? What meaning does it have, etc. So be ready for that. Change management, right? So we need to involve subject matter experts. I mentioned it already, and address concerns. We cannot change the source because it already has been translated, or we cannot rename this particular component because that's what we've always been calling it. Those are usually not really reasons or excuses anymore for not changing it. We're trying to do a better job with the terms that we use, and really, at the end of the day, it's what our customers want to understand us most for. You're going to probably have some discussions between marketing and engineering on what to call something. Marketing will say we have to call it this because that's what sells, right? And engineering says no, we have to call it this because that's what it does, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to have some of those questions coming up that need to be addressed. Um, and then you need to define quality, right? So when is good enough? For legacy content, you may say we're not going to do this, or we're going to do this partially by just approving the terms, and then we're fine. For new content, we want depending on where we are, right? So let's say you have 50% now, then maybe 80% maybe good enough. Just kind of depends on how strict you want to be, and how far you want to go with this. That's really kind of up to you. And then I mentioned already legacy versus new content. What are the risks that we are involving here when we change the content, or where we just leave it alone? If we're in the aviation industry, these aircraft can fly for 20, 30 years, maybe longer. Is it really important that we update something that has been already going around for over 3 decades? We may want to say, well, leave that alone, and just new content we're going to do differently, in order to improve quality, safety, etc. And again, don't boil, and well, I haven't mentioned this yet, but really don't boil the ocean, right? We're not trying to tackle the entire beast all at once. We want to start with consistency, for instance. Then we start maybe prioritizing based on different types of content. With HyperSTE, our tool, you can create profiles, starter profiles with just having terminology rules enabled. Then you can go to active voice. Then you go to approved verbs, and then you basically can add more rules later on. It just kind of depends on, again, when you create that baseline, where you are, you kind of make some informed decisions on where you want to be with all of this. So that being said, I would like to give everybody a quick demo on HyperSTE. I'll do that in Arbitec. So HyperSTE, it's been around for over 20 years. So we recently released version 10 that has a brand new user interface that I briefly want to share with you. So there's an on-premise version as well as a cloud version. The idea is, with this new 10 version, we have categorized the colors. So basically, you can choose between two versions as far as the checking process is concerned, or the feedback process is concerned. You can ask HyperSTE to give you colors based on 4 categories that we use: terminology, spelling, style, and length. Or you can do it based on a per word error message, meaning that you get a lot more colors. But we wanted to make it a little bit less overwhelming, and so we decided to categorize this. But it's really up to you. You can just simply change that in the setting. But you can click on that. You can see that there's a new user interface where you can immediately make changes to something. And in this case, it needs to be must. And so you can immediately start just clearing things up for your end user, and make things more consistent, etc. Now, another nice thing that we have here in place is a sentence memory that we used to have as well, but it's now embedded in the same user interface, where you can simply ask HyperSTE, okay, are there sentences in there that have been rewritten before or that I can use that are similar, that have a high compliance rating, and then see if I'm okay with that. Which in this case, for instance, I'll take this one, it's 10 kilohertz, or actually I need the 20 kilohertz version of it. And then you can simply do a full sentence by sentence replacement and move on. It will check the content afterwards. It works really, really nice. Then you can create a report. You can create reports on multiple files. You can do it on one file that you have open. You could do it on hundreds of, if not thousands of pages for that matter, and tells you exactly, it gives you all sorts of readings, readability ratings, readability, class, flash, Kincaid grade, translatability, similarity, etc. And then how to kind of read those scores. The biggest score, of course, is your compliance rating over here, and then some other document statistics. We list the biggest error messages in high to low frequency over here. If you want to get to know a little bit more about what's going on here, you can go to terminology and look at the non-approved words that you've been using, etc. So works quite nice. So it's very, very customizable. You have the ability to, and this is the portal version, the online portal version, but again, we also have an on-premise version where you can have multiple dictionaries in place, multiple profiles in place, where you can kind of define whichever writing rule you want to be using here, and whichever, let me go ahead to our own, here we go. So whichever dictionaries you want to be using, whichever profiles you want to be using, and the idea is that as a writer, you can define which dictionaries you want to be using, showing you that the project dictionary can override the secondary dictionary, and the secondary dictionary overrides the core dictionary. Define which profiles you want to use, which color scheme you want to use. And yes, we also do conditional checking. So if you're working in XML, for instance, you can load your DTD and tell HyperSTE, okay, whenever you see this particular tag, check that according to this particular rule set. So it's extremely customizable. You can define your users in here, different writing roles. Different roles. So technical writer, terminology manager. Technical writer can add new term candidates then that a terminology manager then has to approve. Again, the sentence memory is in here, the terminology is in here. It's very customizable. It's allowing you to basically allow you to check your content however way you want it to be checked. Can be used from anything from a terminology checker to a full-flexed simplified technical English or Microsoft style guide checker, or anything really in between. So back to the presentation then. We have 5 minutes left. So I would like to, with your permission, let you know that, oh, by the way, pricing wise, we provide both on-premise as well as the on-cloud version as a subscription model. Pricing is actually available on our website, but really it comes down to $80 or €75 per month per license, and those licenses can be shared between different users, so it's relatively low to get into. We also offer dictionary building services, we offer training services, and all the other aspect that I showed to you earlier is something that we of course help you with. We've been doing controlled language content quality now since the early 2000s, so over 2 decades of experience. We've trained 3,500 writers and SMEs. We have an e-learning course that you can go through. It's just, a whole range of services and solutions that you can use us for. Also to let you know that at Ediplan, we not just do HyperSTE, right? So we have over 4,000 specialists. We're doing engineering, technical documentation solutions in general. And we're also in IoT embedded systems. So publicly listed firm. So yeah, quite large amount of services that we offer. Um, Before I open up the room for questions, this is my email address, barry.braster@adaplan.com. You can contact me to request a customized demo. Um, I showed it in Arbitext, but we support Oxygen, Word, FrameMaker, Flare, online authoring environments like Heredo. If you're in the defense industry, we support a number of tools like Raytheon's Eagle. Recently, we started to integrate with EPS's Iris Check, which is like a Brex rule checker. So there's a number of a large number of tools that we integrate with. So you can ask me about that too. We do free trials. We can do a free business case analysis, basically asking you to provide us with some sample content where we analyze them and do show you before and after results, see what it could do to you for your content. And you can visit us at simplifiedenglish.com, download free guidebooks, and yeah. So that being said, are there any questions that you are more than welcome to add to the chat box? No questions at all? Okay. Very good. Well, I have 3 minutes left, I see. So that means that we're well in time. Leaving me to thank you all for your attendance. And again, feel free to contact me at the email address provided. And then we hope to hear from you soon and see how we can help you out. Have a great remainder of the day if you're here in the US. And if you're in Europe, have a great evening. And if you're in Asia, then it's really late. So hopefully you can get some good nights sleep. Thank you all. Bye bye.